What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're back with another video for DraftKings Call of Duty fantasy betting here for the Call of Duty League. Yesterday we had some great matches that we watched for the Toronto Ultra Major 3 over there in Toronto. It was some really great matches, some really great bangers that, we saw yesterday. Some upsets, most importantly, like this LA and Minnesota Rocker matchup that everybody thought Minnesota was going to take. It was pretty close up until the last matchup where LA Thieves upset Minnesota Rocker and beat them 6-1, as you can see here. So really nice turnaround by the LA Thieves, and these are the types of games that makes betting on the Call of Duty League very, very exciting. And I'm gonna go over today's slate today, which is Friday the 3rd of June. Today we're going to be having 4 matches. It's going to be the New York Subliners versus the London Royal Ravens, as well as Texas against the LA Gorillas, Toronto against Paris, and Minnesota Rocker against Boston Breach. So I'm going to go over all of my favorite picks for these matchups here in this video. Stay tuned if you want to watch them. Stay tuned if you like esports, if you like Call of Duty, if you like betting on esports and Call of Duty, if you like Call of Duty, Halo, Valorant, Counter-Strike, all of the sorts. Stay tuned, subscribe, like, because I'll be pumping out that betting content for all those platforms here in the future. So with that being said, let's look at the odds and let's look at the matchups for these games that are going to be taking place today, June the 3rd. So for the first matchup of the day, we're going to be having the New York Subliners against the London Royal Ravens. And as you guys can see here by the Call of Duty League's website, we had some great matches yesterday. Like we were just watching on the screen, and we had the LA Thieves beat the Minnesota Rocker 3-2. We had FaZe beat Ultra 3-1, which looked to be a closer series than it appears on paper. Very good series to watch. I watched all of these live. Pretty good matches. Optic against Mutineers as well. Pretty close series. Pretty entertaining. Hate to see my team Optic lose, but I know they'll bounce back here soon. So Surge and Subliners, also a very fast-paced, close matchup. This one was insane. Seattle Surge was up 2-0, and then New York Subliners came up and matched them 2-2, and they went to the last. I think they went to the last round in Surge. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe it was really tight. Let's see here. So they went to the last S&D, and Seattle took it 6-5. The ice with Seattle Surge is incredible. That's what you call, clutching up there. So pretty nice. They were about to get reverse swept. Pretty nice series we had yesterday. Nevertheless, today we're going to be having these matchups, and I really do think that New York Subliners is gonna win this specific matchup. And I obviously say that because New York has been, more dominant in recent history. Although they did lose to Seattle, I believe that one could have gone either way, right? Can't really take anything from that other than New York Subliners choked a round 11 for the reverse sweep. So the fact that they came back down from a 0-2 leads me to believe that they have what it takes to beat most of the teams here in this league. So as you can see here, they lost to Seattle. I do believe they're going to be London. I do believe they are a better team. As you can see by the odds here, New York Subliners is sitting at a -220. And naturally, me, targeting a team that I believe is going to win, I would not like to target players on the opposing team, but just so you know, I'll go over the prices. Harry at 6,200 is the cheapest player on the London Royal Ravens, and one of the cheapest players in the slate He hasn't really shown much action here in his stay at the CDL, so I would not be, putting money on him. Just personally, I haven't seen too much from him. 0 at 7,400, somewhat similar. Really good player. Obviously, he's in the league, but hasn't been too consistent. Afro is obviously my favorite pick on the squad right now. 7,600, I believe he is the best player in the squad. And if it's not for him carrying the squad, I don't think they really have a chance of winning. So, anything can happen at the end of the day. But my pick always with London is Afro at 7,600, and I'll leave it at that. Nasty at 8,200. Can be an upside, play as well. For the most part, Afro's the most favorite one for me on the London Royal Ravens side, in case we were to have to roster one of them on the New York side. I do believe that Paul X is at a sweet price at 7,800. Can't really beat that price. 7,800 for a player who's been producing a lot in recent history. Paul X, if you look at his numbers, he posts almost 100 fantasy points every matchup. So Paul X is really, an icy player. He really has what it takes. He's been in the league already for multiple years, you could say. So he has the experience. I do think Paul X is the value play here on the New York side. And it's crazy to say, I think Crim 6 at 7,600 is my value play as well. Crim 6 has been, turning up when the team needs him the most. We've been seeing his veteran mentality and his veteran skill and his resilience in this season specifically. We've seen series where he's gone super negative, but they've still won, and that really shows his, game IQ and how kills to him isn't really always important, right? So having a player like Crim 6 on your team helps a lot as well. And I think that at 7,200, if they get a 3-0, New York Subliners is gonna be sitting real sweet with Crim 6 there. So Crim 6 Paul X, and obviously Hydra at 10,200, really nice play. 10,200, I think, Hydra the monster, Hydra the animal is going to produce. I'm really feeling good about this New York side. I'm gonna call a 3-1 victory. So, roster how many ever players you want. It might be a 3-0. Who knows? Kismet at 10,600, I believe, is a little bit too overpriced. But he's always posted 100 fantasy point games, except for 2 since he started in the league. So who knows? He might meet that value. But for sure, my value plays are Paul X and Crim 6 here for the New York Subliners. And like I said, I'm going to call it a 3-1 victory by the New York Subliners. And with that being said, I'm going to move on to the next game. So for our next matchup here on the day, we are going to be having the Toronto Ultra versus the Paris Legion face-off. And obviously, I'm probably not the only person who thinks this, but it is most likely that Toronto Ultra will 3-0 the Paris Legion just cause, right? Just cause, most likely, at the very best, 3-1. Toronto Ultra is a force to be reckoned with. Although they did lose to Atlanta, I do feel like they are going to win this matchup here in Paris Legion. I feel it's safe to say I'm not targeting anybody that isn't named Temp, because Temp is pretty much their best player. He's always carrying them pretty much every single matchup. I do feel that Temp at 8,400 is too expensive, though, especially against Toronto. They're in their home turf. They want to win. They have all the motivation they could possibly have here, specifically in this matchup, because they need to win. So I I know they're going to win, right? Toronto Ultra is probably my favorite squad to stack up in here against the Paris Legion, but obviously out of respect I'm gonna go over the prices of Paris Legion. Like I said, temp 8,400, a little bit too expensive in my opinion. Jimbo at 6,000 here isn't necessarily a player I'm too excited to see play. Same goes for John at 6,400 and Gravity at 8,000. I don't know why Gravity would be 8,000 facing the Toronto Ultra. He hasn't been really consistent, although he has posted several 100 fantasy point matches. I think Paris only has like one series win in the whole year, so not very good if you ask me. It's safe to say I'm not taking any of these players, but looking at the Toronto Ultra squad, I really feel like you can't go wrong with any of their players, from Bance to Cammy to Insight to Kleenex. They're all a little bit pricey, but they're probably worth it considering who they're going against. So if you see the odds here, Toronto Ultra is at a minus 600 to win, and Paris Legion is at a plus 355. So, these odds pretty accurate in my books. Kleenex at 9,200 looks pretty appealing. Kleenex has been actually, outperforming his numbers recently, or his salary, should I say. He's posted some big numbers in the past, and he posted 66 kills and 60 deaths last time they played Paris. It was also a 3-0 sweep last time Toronto played Paris, so I don't think anything's going to change here. Safe to say, pick and choose how many of your players you want to take, 3 or 2 for the Toronto side. Insight 10,000 as well, pretty good play. Insight is another player who has fire under his seat, because we know that Scrappy, the top performing player on their academy team, is right there ready to take any of their jobs if one of them decides to slack off too long. So Insight doing pretty good. He's had a good run recently, as well as Cammy here. Cammy, also a really great player. And all of these guys, KDs, are pretty nice too, for the I think these stats here on breakingpoint.gg are for in general in the categories. So Kleenex's overall KD is 94, Insight's 103. For some reason they have Hicksy and Scrappy here, or I'm just dumb. Here, Cammy's at 99, Bance is at 091. Still really good players. Bance at 7,600 is an insane value, because Bance will, even though he's not super consistent on a 3-0 sweep, and if he gets a lot of kills, he might hit that 120 fantasy point mark, and at that value, he's just gonna have to be on the winning lineup. So Bance is my number one value pick here, followed by Kleenex at 9,200. Really anybody in the Toronto squad, 3-stack, 2-stack, however you want it, as well as the team price. The team price is at 3,600, which is the most expensive in the slate. So that one's in play too. I think this is going to be a 3-0 sweep. That being said, let's move on to the next matchup. For the next matchup of the day, we have the anticipated, Optic Texas versus the Los Angeles Guerrillas. This is going to be a great matchup. By no means do I think Texas is just going to come in here and, have their way with Guerrillas. I say that because Guerrillas have shown that they can be resistant to many of the bigger teams. Not saying they're going to win by any matter, anything can happen. But Optic Texas is most likely favored to win. I can't see the odds right now because I'm doing this early in the morning, but I can tell you that Optic is definitely going to be favored to win here. This matchup, I'd say it'd be like a 3-1, just because Optic, they have to win. They just have to win, and I don't think LAG's looking that like they're gonna run it back. They're not looking like the team they were last major, right? With Spark, the team that won the major, they're not looking anything like that. So I do feel that Optic is going to take this series. I want to say 3-1. It could be a 3-2. Would not be surprised if this one goes down to the wire. As you guys can see, Florida has Optic's number. They lost yesterday 2-3. Very grueling series, but I do think there's some a couple players here in the Optic side that are, or on both teams, that are really good value. I want to start by saying that Prolute got a big price chop. He's been like the top player in the slate recently, and DraftKings just dropped him to the cheapest Optic player at 7,200. I do believe that they did that because his last performance wasn't too great. But at 7,200, I believe Prolute is a crazy play. If you look at his first 5 matchups of his basically his stint here with Optic Texas, he's been killing it. He got hyperinflated in price, and now they returned him to where he should be, maybe even a little bit lower than what he should be at 7,200. So at that price, I think Prolute is great, exceptional value. You never know. Texas might pull out a 3-0 win here, and at that situation, Prolute is going to be a must-have in your lineup. Scump at 7,800, always a good play. Scump, like we like saying, most of the time he's always a lock. He's had a great season so far here in Vanguard, and I do think that Scump is always in play. Definitely if you're gonna stack a Texas stack on your pretty much on your lineups, Scump and Prolute you should highly consider, right? Them being the cheapest options on the Texas squad. A Scump Prolute stack would be rather contrarian. Maybe instead of going Shotzi Dashi, but yet again, Shotzi Dashi are adequately priced in their own right. Dashi at 8,600, I feel is pretty decent. Dashi's been rather consistent this season. Can't go wrong with him. He did get a price cut of 200 bucks from last matchup against Florida till now. Now he's 8,600. He was 8,800 yesterday, so he got a little price cut there. And now I believe Shotzi got a little price cut as well, a $200 price cut as well, which isn't much, but nevertheless, it's a price cut for a matchup that they are favored to win. I wish I could see the odds right now, but I do know Optic Texas is obviously favored to win this matchup. Shotzi at 9,400, I would say, is a decent play. My opinion, the value here is in Scump Prolute, and on the LAG side, I would say if you're feeling contrarian, or you feel like LAG has what it takes to upset this team, I would say that ASIM at 7,400 is ridiculous. If ASIM was playing any other team at 7,400, I wouldn't hesitate to have him on my team, right? Like, this guy can explode at any moment. His upside is through the roof, and this guy can carry a team. So I would say that at 7,400, ASIM is my favorite there. Hugh at 8,800, I feel like he's a little bit too expensive. Going against Optic. Slasher at 7,000 might be a good pick, but Slasher's Gunless at 6,800 is actually a really good play. Gunless is another player who can explode as well. Veteran. Anytime you see two veterans at 7,000 or at 6,800 at the bottom of the barrel, you always want to look at them. But you always also want to see their matchup, see who they're going up against. Even in a loss, Gunless can get 100 fantasy points at 6,800, so he might be a nice little contrarian play. But it's a big risk that I wouldn't want to take against Optic right now on a major. Nevertheless, online as well. So, with that being said, I do call this a 3-2 victory on Texas' behalf. And with that being said, we're going to go over to the last matchup of the day, which I do believe is Minnesota versus Boston. So for the last matchup of the day, we are going to be having a crazy match, I am sure, between the Minnesota Rocker and the Boston Breach. If you guys watched last night's match, Minnesota versus the LA Thieves, it was a grueling matchup. It was a crazy matchup. Minnesota Rocker looked to have that one in the bag, but LA Thieves just clutched up, and they ended up taking that out from under them. As you can see here, Minnesota Rocker, they won the hard point. Thieves won the S&D. Minnesota Rocker got the control. And then Thieves got the hard point, and then got the S&D as well. So, I just want to mention that the best value play here, and it's incredible that you get stuff like this happen. But this is what happens when contests are made before the previous contests of the previous day have concluded, because Haylock is sitting at 6,600, and he literally absolutely destroyed yesterday. He should not be at 6,600. So these are the discrepancies that we see in these types of matchups. Sometimes when DraftKings doesn't price players right, as you can see here, Haybuck had a plus 1.09. He had 105 kills and 96 deaths. This guy had 65 non-traded kills and 17 assists in the series. Hail time, he had 2 minutes. This guy's an absolute beast, and at 6,600, he is absolutely the play. The absolutely value play on the entire slate. I would say roster him if you can. Against Boston, it's going to be no different. I feel like he's going to carry this energy with Minnesota's momentum. And I do feel like they are superior to Boston, and that they have what it takes to win a 3-2 or a 3-1 victory over them. Attach was another player who yesterday had a smoke show of a performance against LA Thieves. I believe he has 93 kills and 74 deaths, as you can see here. I don't know if you can see here this, up close. 93 kills, 74 deaths, 1.26 KD. He had like a 40 bomb, second to last game. So he at $8,000 attaches pretty decent. Attaches, I want to say, one of the most consistent players in the league. This guy's a veteran, even though he looks like a little baby. But he's a veteran. He's been in the league for a very long time. He has composure. He has experience. At 8,000, man. At 8,000, attaches really on my radar. That's all I'm gonna say. Other than that, Standy didn't have the best performance ever, but hey, it doesn't matter, because if the rest of your team is just outperforming and just carrying their weight on the team, sometimes you don't have to do anything, man. Sometimes you can take the deaths. He had 82 and 91. Standy hasn't been, like I said, performing to the best, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, kills are important, but they're not everything, right? The most important thing is you want your team to win. But we are going to be wanting to have Standy perform a little better here, so that these games don't go down to the wire as much. Standy at 9,600, cool. But I think there's other plays that I would rather pivot to at 9,600. still have to decide, but definitely attach Haylock or the value here. Priest at 6,800. I don't know. Priest hasn't really been too consistent. He has been kind of consistent for the past 5 games, but overall, he's very a roller coaster type of player. You really don't know what to expect from him. So I would say he's really like a wild card if you really think this is gonna this matchup's gonna be a 3-0 or something, right? But on the other side for Boston, Capsidle 9,800. I feel like he might be a little too expensive. He has really not had a great string of games recently. He hasn't really been meeting his value, and Boston per se hasn't really been winning too much. As you can see here, the only team they've won to is the London 3-1 in the major 3. So Boston hasn't really been doing too great as well, and I do think Minnesota's going to take this one in the bag. I personally might not target Boston Breach, but I would say if there's a value pick here, it's probably going to be TJ Halley, cheapest player with the highest upside. TJ Halley has always shown that he has the ability to get more than 100 fantasy points, and he has the ability to really rack up those kills. TJ Halley, 73 kills last matchup, even though he only got 83 fantasy points and he dies a lot. He can rack up the kills. So, I feel like TJ Halley at this position is very valuable. But with that being said, those are my thoughts on these matchups. I do think Minnesota is going to take this one 3-1. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know what you think down on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter for updates as well. I tweet all my matchup predictions and updates as well on there. So feel free to let me know. Stay connected. If you like the content, if you like the channel, subscribe, you know what to do, and I'll see you in the next video.